Welcome to Unlearn the Crap TV with your host, Kathy Baldwin. Unlearn the Crap TV is more than just a show. It's a movement towards breaking free from the disempowering structures designed to benefit the few at the expense of the many. It's about education, healing, and unlearning the detrimental beliefs that have been ingrained in society for generations. So now, please welcome the host of Unlearn the Crap TV, Kathy Baldwin.
Carole, I am so excited that you are here with me. Not only are you someone that I admire and respect, you and I have the greatest conversations. And so I'm so excited that we're going to have this conversation, that everyone else gets to appreciate how amazing you are.
Oh, thank you.
Let me start with, this show is about unlearning the crap, the conditioned responses, the automatic programming, the things that get in your way. I know your background story, but tell me, what crap did you need to unlearn so that you could level up and provide this amazing level of expertise and service that you bring to the world?
What a rich question. Thank you. And also, I love the confidence you have in me. So thank you again. I would say the biggest thing I have had to unlearn that I work on daily and teach is people pleasing is the devil for me. People pleasing, I think, has been the biggest moment of self-preservation that I spent most of my life using as a tool to survive, whether that's big and dramatic or that's just like managing social cues. You know what I mean? I knew that if I could please the people around me, they would like me, they would love me, they would this, they would that, you know, and it became my strongest muscle was to know and see very clearly what they needed and how I could help them. I mean, it's caretaking, it's all of that, it's all intertwined. So the thing that I have learned is, and this is how it's kind of rolled in, is that people pleasing for me generally is the key into like my check of the unlearn. And, you know, most things like this are a daily fight. It's not like one day you're like, I'm stopping people pleasing. Like that doesn't, it doesn't work. But people pleasing, I would say, is my, it's my biggest curse and it's my biggest triumph, because it's taught me how to understand on a really, really fundamental level what people do need. So when we're used for good, I can actually help. But when used for evil, it's just designed so people like me. So, or, you know, whatever the thing is in that moment. So people pleasing is something that I've had to really unlearn. Like that's the crap, I would say, in there is that, yeah, I'm a only child. I grew up in New York, very alpha family, a very alpha group. And you've got to carve out some space for yourself. And so if you can become other people, if you can exist in other people's universe in that way, you become as large as they do. So I don't do that anymore.
I absolutely love that, because that is one of my crap things that I've had to unlearn. Carole, you've used this in Level Up. Before we continue this conversation, because there's so much I want to unpack with what you just said, tell the audience who you are and how you've leveled up and what you bring to the world right now.
Oh, sure. With pleasure. I'm a podcast host myself, a life transition strategist, and a public speaker. And I help women, working women, generally moms, get in motion, get out of decision paralysis, and get moving into whatever the next chapter that they need to do is. And it's sort of like, it's a little bit, career coach. It's a little bit life coach. It's a little bit your bestie who's just going to tell it like it is, with homework. It's like going to brunch with your bestie, but you have an action plan at the end of it. Because
Oprah always said that if everyone had a Gail in their life, then we would all be successful. So it sounds to me like you're being a Gail for the Oprahs of the world, or the potential.
So funny. It's so funny you said that. I was talking about that with someone yesterday, that we don't necessarily, ironically, and I don't think I've ever mentioned Gail up until literally yesterday, but I was like, someone was talking to someone who was trying to talk about what they do. And I said exactly that. I said, what's funny? Nobody knows what Gail it does. Nobody knows what she's about in terms of like actual practical service, but they know whatever she does, it's kind of amazing. And she brings this specialness to it. It's really funny you said that. And she brings her to it. And yes, she tells Oprah like it is, from what I understand. I have not yet met Oprah, or Gail, but that's kind of, I'm Gail, pretty much.
That's fantastic. So there is so many ways that we can take this conversation, but I want to go back to the beginning, which was people pleasing. Yeah. And so if you went from people pleasing to becoming a life transition strategist, a coach, a mentor, a bestie, a Gail, you obviously had a moment or moments that took you through your own transition. Can you tell us what that was?
Of course. So I'm a born and raised New Yorker. Only child, as a performer as a kid, and from very, like I said, like alpha family, very wonderful, very involved, but very like big parents. We definitely have our level of crazy in my family, myself included. But and I just grew up and went to college, met my college sweetheart. We were together for many years. During that time, I switched into television producing at ABC News, where it was, and then I continued onward with my relationship and my career. And at about 32, I started trying to have a baby with him, because it seemed like the right time. And my mother was a little bit older of my generation for having kids, and 32 was kind of my moment where I was like, I want to do this by the time I'm 32. And we tried for a little bit and it wasn't working, and the marriage wasn't really working either. Because as you know, like it's definitely always really healthy to add a baby into a marriage that's not working. Because that always solves it.
That's always what saves troubled marriages. Yeah.
Every time. So around 34, the marriage really wasn't working. And I was doing everything that I could as the people pleaser and the caretaker that I am to tell him and show him all the reasons why the marriage could work. And he was doing the same, but trying to tell me all the reasons why the marriage wasn't working. And finally, he sat down with me and he said, and I don't think I want children. And I said, okay. And he said, okay, what? And I said, okay, you can go. And it was the first time I had made a decision that was completely independent of anybody else's input, desire, need, or want in my life.
Did you make
I was
it in
34. Yes.
In that exact moment, clarity and everything just hit you in the face. Okay, this is it.
It wasn't like, oh my God, I am woman, hear me roar. I was like a pool on the floor and I was devastated. But it was, I knew in my bones what I wanted. And that trumped all of it. And it's the first time I allowed it to trump all of it. It's the first time I knew it was the right thing, that it should trump all of it. I wasn't the kid growing up that was like wearing the wedding dress and playing family. Like that wasn't me. But I knew I've always been, it's a small family, but I've always been close with my family. And in my body, family is a value of mine. It's a very strong value of mine. That's one of the things that I focus in on with my clients is what are your values? Because if your values are misaligned with what's going on, you can't really move forward into figuring out what you want. And everything became crystal clear in that moment. And yeah, I mean, I wasn't like, it's not that I wanted my marriage to end, and it's not that I wanted to move. I didn't feel empowered at that moment. Like I say it now with empowerment and with independence and strength, but I didn't say it at the time. It was just like, all right, like, this isn't working. You're clearly you've just nailed he just needed me to say it. And I think at that moment, I was like, this is not, we talk about, I've dated like half of Manhattan, and, you talk about deal breakers when you're dating, and like, this was my deal breaker, but it's probably my only deal breaker up until that moment. And that was why the people pleasing was my answer when you asked that in terms of leveling up, because when you make that one decision, when you have that moment where you're like, this is not, pardon me, something I'm willing to bend with.
Yeah.
It opens you up. It opened me up to massive change and ability to see another way. And that's,
before that, if I understand, you were doing everything in your power to make something that wasn't working for either one of you to work, which is what so many of us women do. I remember, and I hate saying this because I have very little respect for the man anymore, but Dr. Phil used to say, you either make the right decision or you make the decision right. And so that's how I used to feel about my marriage. I knew my marriage wasn't working, but I made the decision. So now I needed to make it right. And I was forcing everything, like plan A, B, C, D, E, F. I mean, I stayed 20 years in a marriage that I knew wasn't working. And so many of us do that. Is that what was happening to you?
Honestly, frankly, no. I didn't think, I look at it now and say this marriage is not working. But at the time, for a while, it did work. For a long time, it was a good marriage. You'd ask anybody, and myself included, like I was happy. I loved him. He loved me. I felt very good, and I felt very warm. Our values were, I believe that we have 3 values that we live by. It can be 5, but most people have like 3 to 5, but usually the last 2, go into the first 3 and what have you. And mine are purpose, learning, and family. And the purpose, he and I were aligned in purpose that, I need purpose in order to live my life. I need something larger than me. I need to learn when I'm doing things. I can't just, whether that's work or school, I can't just like clock in, clock out, and then have something else I'm doing later. I need to be learning most of the time, or I feel very, very empty. And then family, and the family, and he was aligned with learning, but he wasn't aligned with family. And, one could argue, well, I was fighting for my family. And I'm pretty sure that was my like trauma response to him wanting to leave the marriage, was like in my body, like, oh, well, this is family. We got to make it through. We got to make it through. But had I been aware of my values at the time, I would have realized that his values were not actually aligned with mine. And that, which is fine. Like people have different trips. They have different ways they have to live. They have different needs in their lives. But, it's like a piece of hard truth. It's like, you may want this, but it may not want you. And that's really okay. Like that's the feeling of your happiness is more important than what the happiness looks like in your mind's eye. And in my mind's eye, he was, like this was our marriage, and therefore, but no, when he jeopardized my family and my ability to continue to build my family, that's when it changed for me. And that's the moment of, getting out of decision paralysis, sort of a mealy way of saying it. But really, like, that's the moment when I was like, oh, this is what a decision feels like. And I believe that a decision is not a decision until it's put into action. I think we disagree on this sometimes. I think.
Well, for me, a decision has been watered down because we say we make a decision, but we say, I hope, or try, or I think, or I want, but that's not a decision. A
Yeah.
decision is a pivotal moment in time where nothing is the same.
Right.
It is where our power is. That's where our creation comes from. It's one of the things that I talk about all the time in Unlearn the
Right.
Crap.
Yeah. I think that the piece in it that moves me, and the piece that is a lot of my focus, is the action part of the decision. Because
Yes,
for me, I can live in my mind forever and make decisions all day long in my head, and if I don't put them into action, they are not a decision.
they're
They
not a
are
decision.
still in right. They're still in theory. And by saying, okay, you can go, and then moving forward. I mean, I have a beautiful, wonderful 6-year-old girl now. She's amazing. I'm a single mom by choice. I'm a fertility warrior. I spent 12 years trying to have her, and 4 years straight on fertility drugs and doing tons of fertility to try and have her. I did 6 IVF, 4 IUI. That's the turkey baster. I like overhauled all my nutrition, down to the shower curtain plastic that was in my bathroom, like overhauled everything, and was still having trouble having her. So it was like she was more wanted than anything I've ever wanted in my life, and probably anything I ever will want in my life, like that. But knowing that and doing it anyway, and just plowing through because it's important. And it didn't, I was in the process of adoption, and I was 12 weeks pregnant with her because I knew I wanted her no matter what. I wanted a child no matter what. I wanted my family no matter what. And that's the piece about, I think, people pleasing that can be dangerous, because you're like, I mean, if I was like enough of a people pleaser and that wasn't a value for me, I could have been like, okay, well, we can talk about it. Like, can we talk about it? I would have tried to like convince him and spent another 3, 5, 10, whatever years, miserable, not aligning with my life, not aligning with what I want. And there's nothing wrong with you wanting something different from somebody else. You just have to be clear on that, and then know what you're sacrificing. And if it's, if you're going to sacrifice that, you have to know. And if you're not going to sacrifice that, you got to either get up, forgive me, but since we're here, shit our dad, get off the pot.
Absolutely. There's so much of what you have said that is a pure example of unlearning the crap and universal laws. You made a decision. When you made a decision to have a child, it wasn't easy, but it didn't stop you. You went until you achieved it. And so many times people forget about the universal law of gestation, that there is a period of time for dreams to come true. Same with the laws of compensation, that if you had given up at any point, you wouldn't have been able to see the fruition of all your efforts and contributions. But the fact that you kept going because you made a decision, and a decision meant this is it. Like, this is do or die. And so many of us, we think we make a decision, but we give ourselves outs. We we give into the fears of what if, instead of it actually becoming creation, instead of seeing it through to fruition.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the plagues of the modern female that we have been given, it's like the measles or something, is is that in the process of, we're caretakers often, it's not, I do think in nature, we are caretakers. That's not always the true, but that's often the case.
Well,
in
that's the feminine.
That's the feminine, right? And in our relationships, that's often the case. In our parenting, that's often the case. Like, we're taking care of everybody. We're taking care of all the things that are like, even if and I know some wonderful men out there that do a lot of the caretaking and stuff, and I know a lot of women who are the breadwinners in their family who, where their husbands are staying home and stuff, but they're still innately in this web thinking way, thinking about all the things that often men in a, let's say, classical environment of or societal typical, where he's the breadwinner and she's at home, are not necessarily thinking of, regardless of what we're doing. If we're thinking about our family, we're thinking about our family and all of it. We're not like missing things. We may not be doing it, or we may be delegating, but we may not. But I think that so it becomes distracting. And it becomes confusing because we are so, and it's beautiful is the truth. I mean, it's a beautiful trait. It's not something that I think should be poo-pooed when it's used for good, as I said. But I think that it makes us confused about what we want, because we know what everybody else wants and what they need. But when you're exhausted, and when you're focused on your job and your career and trying to get that moving, and all the people that you need to move in order to make that, and then you're focused on your home life and the house and the meals, or the staff that you have, or the how to make money to put everything on the meals, like all of these things are distracting you. And rightfully so, they are your priorities of knowing or figuring out what you actually want. So at some point, where before you had all these things, you kind of knew, or at least you had the opportunity to be able to have a moment of understanding what you want or what you like to do, because you had the freedom and the time ultimately to try. And now you've spent this other period of time serving everybody else. And now it's all kind of jumbled up, because that you kind of enjoy, it's a simplistic, overly simplistic example, but my daughter watches a movie called Zombies. It's like a Disney movie, and it's really fun. I like it, but it wouldn't be like my first choice. It's not my favorite movie, but it's one of my favorite movies to watch with her. So, but at a point, I'm sitting down afterwards, she's gone to bed, and I'm like, so what movie should I watch? Maybe I'll turn on Zombies. No. That's not my movie. That's my movie with her. And I love watching it, and I love watching it with her. And it's interesting to me because I do like it, but that blurs, I guess, is my point. So what we lose when we are, or what gets muddied when we are busy working moms trying to, go through our days, is knowing what we actually want again, because we're not the person we were when we knew what we kind of wanted when we were younger, before we had all these things going on. So going back is not the answer. And the current thing is not the answer. Like Zombies is not the answer to what movie I liked. It's my favorite movie. And let's say The Godfather was my movie that I liked beforehand. It's not the movie that I like now. The movie that I like now is something completely different, because I'm a different woman, because I'm older, because I've had more experience, because, you know what I mean? And that movie
evolved.
Metaphorically has evolved, right? But so when we're trying to make a big change, or when this happened to me, the reason I know this so well is because it happened to me. Because once I made this one choice, which was I'm going to have a baby regardless, it freed my mind up to realize what it felt like to make a choice that was entirely about me. And I was able to do it again and again. So I changed my career very, majorly. I mean, I was a successful television producer and associate director at Good Morning America and ABC News. And it wasn't serving me anymore, because I knew I wanted this child. And I was, like hours at Good Morning America. It's an overnight show, starts at 9 a.m. So you're like going to work at midnight. Like none of this served my life. It was very sexy, good cocktail party stories, but it didn't serve my life. But since I'd opened my mind to understand that, based on that one very lucky moment of my own truth, I was able to say, this isn't serving my life. I know that this is a dream job for so many. And I understand that if I push through this, I can be very, very successful. And it's going to take a lot of work, but I can do that. But it's actually not, I'm allowed to have more than one dream. And now I understand one dream that is solely my dream. Let's try another. And I started moving through. I ended up working at finding a career in financial services, working in hedge funds, running administration and facilities, and building all of these like wonderful renovations and real estate portfolios for companies, not their portfolio, not their assets, but the actual workspace, because I could do this in production. So there were like all of these pieces from learning this one thing that showed me how to understand what I wanted and then go forward with it. But if every time, and I'm not exaggerating, every time I ask a woman, so tell me what you want. And the first answer is generally, well, my insert husband, wife, child, parents, that will serve the family. They want blah, blah, blah. So out of these choices, I will tell you I want that. And I'm like, no. What do you want? And they sit there for a minute and then they go, I don't know.
Yeah, that's part of the crap that we've been dealt, is the fact that we have not been taught to go inward. We have not been taught. And so many things that you talked about, as you were talking, I'm thinking that's alignment, that's alignment, that's alignment. And when we understand who we authentically are, and we become aligned with our values, in my healing journey, I didn't know that I could choose my values. I didn't know I could choose my beliefs. I didn't know I could choose my boundaries or any of these things. It wasn't until I lost everything and I had to rebuild. I thought, well, how do you build a business? I know how to build a business. Well, then if I know how to build a business, surely I can build a life. Surely I can build an identity. And that's where it all came from. And so it sounds like what you do or did and what you do for others is to help them find where their true north is, where their alignment is. And then understanding that we go through phases in our lives and we adapt and we evolve and we grow.
Yeah. I mean, yes, it's finding that alignment and then having a plan of what to do to move forward with it. Like we know this now. How do we move forward? How do we move through? That's actually what my podcast, She Takes the Lead, is about. It's about the left turns that hit us. I mean, you've been on it and it's a brilliant episode. It's episode 23 for whoever's listening. Just Kathy is extraordinary on here. And like wildly, it's just a spectacular, bold, like no holds barred episode. But it is what happens when these things happen to us in life that are not our plan, or they're not in our, what we think is our, what's supposed to happen. And then what do we do to move forward? And what does that look like? Because it's not what it looks like in your head for the most part. When you find the alignment, the happiness, the purpose, the clarity, as I call it, it's the feeling. It's the feeling that you get from what you're doing that creates the fulfillment and creates those holes starting to get filled up, or, like starting to bubble, so that you can feel like you and then, move forward. And I don't mean like, I had a like aha moment that was really like at bottom. But I don't believe fundamentally that you need to hit bottom to make these fundamental changes. You don't need to have a grenade tossed across your table. You don't need to toss a grenade across your table. You just need the tools and the ability to understand the priorities around that. And that is, and that I think is really critical, because I think that the fear of change is generally because that means that people are going to be mad at you. People are going to be upset by it. You're going to disappoint people. You're going to lose people in your life. And all of that. The truth is, yes, sometimes that happens. But for the most part, people want the best for you in a healthy relationship. They want the best for you. And, but if you don't know what the best for you is, then, it makes it very difficult for anybody else to help you get there.
So I want to challenge something you were saying when you were talking about left-hand turns, because so many times people can go to feeling like a victim, or feeling that their life is out of control, or so many different stories. But all of these left-hand turns that are coming at us, and it's coming at us through so many sources. It's coming at us through the evolution of change. We're in massive paradigm shift that's happening with our technology, our unsustainable systems of our government, our financial, our education, our medical. I mean, every aspect of our lives is in this massive paradigm shift. Crux. It's chaos.
Total.
And
global.
And so we can use this to feel powerless, or we can use it as an information source. What does this say about me? Am I still in alignment? Is this a time for me to level up and take this opportunity for a different direction? Is this my point of evolution, or do I stay stuck and trapped where I am? And when we use the stuff that comes out of nowhere, or feels like it's coming out of nowhere, COVID came out of nowhere for so many people. But I think it was the greatest reset that happened for us personally and societally.
Yeah.
I mean, here you and I are. I feel like you're my friend. And
Well, you are. We just never met. Yes, exactly. Yeah. I would call you a friend in a heartbeat. But yes, that's
yeah, this is what's come out of these changes. And so we need to learn how to turn everything into information.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I'm dyslexic. I'm neurodiverse. I didn't learn how to read until I was in the 3rd grade. I had a lot of trouble in school. Fortunately, I was an artist and I'm a singer. So I had a window with which I could crawl through and find a way through my own education and learn, and my ability to learn, which a lot of people are not fortunate enough to have, but it was very hard, very painful, a lot of struggle, a lot of I've had to do a lot of work myself on just my own self-esteem and confidence and all of that. About 6 months ago, I had been listening to several different podcasts and et cetera, and I was listening to different women of my vintage, or in a range of my vintage, who were talking about ADHD and describing their experience. And a lot of them were, like me, like highly ambitious, independent women who have achieved some things and were proud of it and really focused, and also, all the things, right? I identified with them. And suddenly I was like, am I ADHD? Because when I was in my 20s, when that became a more common diagnosis, and I had spent my life being dyslexic and really having to work all the time just to get baseline. And I started seeing all of these people who were like, oh, I'm ADHD, and just getting distracted and allowing it to happen. All it did was make me angry and think it was a load of shit. Because I was like, you don't seem to know what the actual struggle of being a diagnosis is. You're just leaning into it. So I ignored that. And I was just like, I'm not ADHD. I don't even know if ADHD is a thing. And then about 6 months ago, as I said, I was listening to a bunch of podcasts and all of this messaging started. And I was like, and I'd been in perimenopause and started feeling a little more frazzled and a little less focused. And all of these things started amping. And I went into my therapist, who I've known for decades. And I was like, I'm going to ask you something. This is probably totally crazy. And I'm sure I'm just off the mark. But do you think that I'm ADD or ADHD? And without skipping a beat, she said, yeah, I do. And I looked at her funny for a minute. And then I was like, and she could tell, I was like, well, why are we not? How have we not? And she goes, honestly, she said, you've identified with being dyslexic for so long. And every time I brought it up about ADHD, even a little bit, you would veer off into this place and you weren't ready to talk about it. And you weren't ready to, own up to it. But yes, I do think you are. And I went about, going to psychiatrist and psychologist, all the things, and figuring out, and yes, I have ADHD and I am a double winner around in neurodiversity. And it was a big pill to swallow. I'm dyslexic. I've known that forever, blah, blah, blah. Worked really hard to find, coping mechanisms for my dyslexia, which has been amazing. And I'm very, I am a smart woman. I am a successful woman, and I am a systematic woman. I know how to move forward and get things moving and how to, systemize things. Like, I'm good at it, actually. What was a very big weakness for me, which was my processing, became a very big strength, because I don't do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I do 1, 5, 3, 4.5, 2, 5. And that works in certain environments, and I've been able to maximize that. But the diagnosis, and I don't believe we are, we are not our diagnosis. We are not our, somebody else's circumstance. We are not somebody else's bad choices. We are in charge, as as we've discussed, of our own beings. I'm not a victim. I can feel victimized sometimes because I'm a human and I can feel these things, but I'm not these things. And I'm clear on that. But initially I was like, this sucks. Like, the stuff that was working for me in terms of my life stopped working for me. And now I have to start again. And it took a little while for me to really go, first of all, no, you're not starting again. You're adding on. Second of all, that's a-okay. Like, you figuring out a new way to do something is a gift, and framing it as a gift rather than this is the suckiest day is really, it may be a little mental manipulation, and that's fine.
No.
It's important to do that in order to be able to accept who you are. And I think that the ADHD wasn't like, when I early on, when I learned I was dyslexic, I just thought I was dumb, and it didn't give me a reason and then move forward. It was the diagnosis. Finding out I was ADHD was like, oh, I can do something about it. Yeah. And I know what I want. And I know what kind of woman I want to be. So what can I do with this information, as you said, that will move me forward, so I can continue to work on the woman that I want to be in my life, and for my child, and for my parents, and for my friends, and for my family, and for my purpose in life. But those moments, we have them forever. They don't go, I mean, I do this for a living and they don't go away.
Carole,
they just,
I'm so excited by your vulnerability and how being so intimate and sharing this information, because this is one of my major things, is that our education system funneled us into boxes. And if we were outside of the box as it was defined, then we were deemed as something wrong with us. Neurodiversity, ADHD, autism, I mean, all of these things. But what if somebody, I love this, somebody said on a video I saw once, I'm a Jeep. I'm not meant to go on the highway. I'm meant to go off-roading. Yes, I'm going to see things from a different perspective, because as a Jeep, I can get up onto the cliff where nobody else can. Yes, my mileage of my gas mileage isn't as good as, the car that can run at optimum fuel efficiency, which means I need to be very choosy where I invest my energy. And I'm thinking, this is what personal alignment is about. It's not about that there's something wrong and fighting a diagnosis, because those diagnoses, all they are is information. It doesn't make you right or wrong. It's what do you do with it? Is it empowering or is it disempowering?
Right. Well, are you making it empowering? Are you making it disempowering? Are you choosing to use it to be empowered and given strength and creating more resilience and trying to take it and give it enough palpability to stand up and move with it? Or are you like letting it become your blanket and, or your cement shoes and pulling you down and making you feel bad? And it's a choice. I mean, it's like love. It's a choice as much as it is luck and,
but it's also
timing.
perspective. In my previous life, I was a designer. Mm-hmm. And so many times people would look at the beauty of natural leather or wood grains, and they'd be looking for the perfection of plastic, because our brains had been taught that if it wasn't this pristine, perfect, without anything, instead of seeing that the blemishes were the stretch marks where that cow gave birth, or seeing the branding of where they came from, which ranch they were from, or the tree on how it survived the worm attacks, and all of these things that are part of our beauty and our story. We've been taught to pretend that those layers, those differences, those really special things, there's something wrong with us.
We've been taught it. We've been so socialized to do it. We've been, with women especially. I mean, men, yes, in a different way, but as a woman, and women especially, like, if we're too fat, we're too thin, we're too fit, we're too flabby, we're too this, we're too that. Like, it's never like, look at that beautiful round shape, or it's never like, look at that beautiful lean body, or look at that, look at that gorgeous bald head, or look, you know what I mean? Like, it's never like, it's always two. It's never, wow. And that's something that's very like, it's endemic and so much for women. And if you look, society, I mean, you're talking about this globally, like, it's interesting, like, you can make jokes about the dynamic between women and men in any country, and people, they will laugh. In any language, you can make those jokes in any culture, and the women will laugh at the same things, because somehow it's not just, I mean, I'm in the United States, you're in Canada. It's not just in this society, it's in all the societies. It's sort of, it's how this has been created. And that's very funny. And it's funny because it's true in a lot of ways, but it also doesn't mean that it's like the only truth,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're almost out of time, but I cannot end this conversation without coming to one of the things that you were talking about, which is, you were talking about how we're judged from the outside, on our bodies, on everything. But I'm going to use myself, for example. I have a belly. I've had a belly since I was a teenager. And I have fought this. I have fought it. I have done everything with it. Now that I'm learning that that's the language of my body, I'm understanding that that is the physical manifestation of all the stress that I've carried, all the suppression I've done, that I have, and so I need to be gentle with myself so that my body can release that, because my body was doing that to protect me from all of those things. So again, any of the things that are happening and we're judging, it's information.
That's right. It's that's right. It's what you're doing with the information that is really it's all going to happen. Like, you said earlier, I think, we don't feel like we can control our lives. We can't. Life is coming at you. We can navigate it. We can interpret it. We can move forward how we need to with it. It's still coming at us. We can't control it. I live in New York City, and my apartment's in the back, and there's a building in front of me. And for the last 6 months, they have been removing the bricks like 30 feet from my building. and then adding bricks, and they are still doing it because that is what's happening across the way in another building. I can't control that. I can control my response to that, which is,
Yes.
like, why would I be upset about it? It's going to happen for 6 months. It's like eating poison. It's going to upset me for 6 months, or I'm going to be like, this is kind of ridiculous, but now it's become funny. And now I'm going to talk about it and just be like, this is stupid, or like wave at the guys or enjoy whatever music they're playing, or like, see what incredible work we can actually achieve when we do something consistently for a long time. Like, it's the framework of everything, and it's the positivity. And as a cynic at heart, a cynical New Yorker who, I mean, now I'm especially like with dating and stuff, I'm almost perpetually optimistic just because I need to be, because that's my medicine in a lot of ways around. Not in a weird way, not in a like, okay way. I have where I need to be cynical. I have a friend I can call, or a couple of friends, and I'm like, oh my God. But, like seeing the beauty of it, as you said, as an artist. Yes. Like, seeing the beauty in what's there, and the differences, and the thing, like, and also holding true, raw leather is beautiful. It doesn't mean smooth plastic isn't beautiful. But it means that smooth plastic, I mean, it's bad for the environment, but in terms of just that moment of understanding, it's all got its place and purpose. And if nothing else, that's to know that plastic does not belong in the environment because it's harmful. And that smooth, beautiful look, we either have to let go of that or figure out how to do it a different way. And that's the biggest metaphor I can think of for, moving forward with your life, of any life. I mean, not just, I talk about women a lot, but like any life is moving forward and figuring out like where you are, who you are, what you want, who you want to surround yourself with, who maybe are like-minded, whether that's in person or online. At this point, it's very, as you said, we're very fortunate to be able to now connect with people that we couldn't really, it wasn't so easy before. And then do something about it to get you closer to what makes you feel like you. And the you is that it's a big step, but it's a worthy step in any room,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Carole, I believe that every single one of us has a purpose and a place. And there are so many people who are getting lost in all of these changes.
Yeah.
And what you do is vitally important in helping clients and people and women find where they fit. Because I truly believe with every ounce of my being that if each and every one of us was living our true, authentic, aligned self in purpose, we would end war. We would end hatred. We would end oppression. We would end hunger. We would end all of these things. And the best of the fact that we're human would come together.
Yeah.
Can you tell everybody who's listening how they can reach you and how you can support them?
With pleasure. You can get me on social media, on Instagram or Facebook at Carole Podell, at Carole Podell. And my website is carolepodell.com. Like I said, I have a podcast called She Takes the Lead. You can go to wherever you listen to podcasts and find me, Carole Podell, and She Takes the Lead. And I'm very excited, we just started the YouTube channel with video. So you can find me on YouTube at She Takes the Lead podcast. You can also reach out to me. Go to my website, carolepodell.com/contact. Please drop me a note. I also, I have some resources on how to start getting clear and figuring out what you want. And I would love to, hopefully this helps to, it's called Win Your Day. And hopefully the idea is that it helps you to, in small incremental ways, figure out what you want and how to move forward through that. So for your audience, you can go to carolepodell.com/win your day. Pretty simple. And you can find that there too. I mean, I would love to I love talking to people is the truth. I mean, I that's before I did this, before I did anything, I really enjoy like the conversations around these things. I don't, one-sided gets a little boring. So I love when people reach out or DM me or any of that. It's really like, it feeds me. It's funny. I just wanted to mention one other thing, and it's a little bit of a story, so bear with me, but it really like touched me what you said about the Jeep story. And I wanted to say, I have my little girl, and she has these wonderful little friends. She's got these 3 incredible, girlfriends that she goes out with sometimes. She's got a lot of friends, but these 3 are all like, they're all alpha girls. They're all very like, focused. They know what they want. Her parents, all their parents, we're all friends. Her moms are like amazing. And we're all different. Like the moms are all different and the kids are all different, and they're all alpha and they're all leaders in their own way, but they're different leaders, and sometimes they follow and sometimes they lead, and they give each other the space. And sometimes they fight for the position of leader, and sometimes they fight for the position of follower, but it's a very natural perspective on what, I think the Jeep story that you said, because I think that like we need all of them. We don't just need the leader that will, get in your face, or the leader that's the gentle leader, or the one that facilitates. Like we need all of them in order to move our world forward. And in order for them to be who they are, we need to know that they are all the alpha girls, not because they need to be alpha girls. You don't need to be an alpha girl, but they happen to be. But putting them in that box, they all have Achilles heels, and they all have powerful statements, and they're all unreasonable at moments and highly reasonable at moments, and demanding and giving and all of the things. And they're 6. So like, watching that and trying to be a part of that raising of that kind of thing, so they can all be a Jeep or a Lexus or a Mack truck.
Spaceship.
A spaceship. Yes. A
or
spaceship
a boat.
or a planet or whatever exactly. Or Transformer. It's a valuable lesson, and not just for girls, it's for boys too. Like there's a whole other, we don't have to get into that right now, but the space to give boys the ability to be all of those different, automobiles, or all those different things are just valuable. Like this is how that happens. And this is, and so we have to do some undoing, as you said, some unlearning, right? And hopefully as you're raising kids, we try to give them the tools so that they can learn, ideally, the lack of, less crap. So when it's time for them to unlearn their crap, it's different crap than what we're unlearning. It's going to be crap, because life is that, but it's different crap.
Yeah.
So,
and it's leveling up each moment and allowing each person to become the best human they can be. Not male, not female, not whatever labels. We're just humans here with a purpose and a part of this big fabric of life. Thank you, Carole. I could talk to you for hours. I always love our conversation. And we veered off into so many directions that we could have gone off on so many different tangents. But I love how our conversations are part of the evolution of everything. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for how you serve the world. And thank you for being in my life.
Thank you. I feel I love what you do. I love how you do it. And I love your articulation around it, your ability to go from physics to human emotion and link the two together. I just think it's magical. So I love your message of leveling up. I think we can all use a little leveling up and support around it. So yeah, thank you for having me. This is really fun. It's always fun to talk to you.
Absolutely. Until next time.
Done.
This has been Unlearn the Crap TV with your host, Kathy Baldwin. Tune in each week as Kathy challenges you to rethink everything you know about personal empowerment and societal structures. Thursdays, 4 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network.